Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm an author, speaker, and success coach who helps women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. In 2009, my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time, and we moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it. And now, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but we're living our best lives. All along in our journey, I've always said that someday when we get our shit together, we will help others. So each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. And thank you in advance for joining us. I have my beautiful co-host, Sienna, my niece, on. How are you, Sienna?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing awesome. You got your braces off.
I'm so glad to have them off.
How many years did you have your braces on for?
I think 3 or 4.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's so wild. When we pulled up the Zoom, I'm like, your teeth, they look amazing. I'm still getting used to them. Even though I saw you a couple weeks ago, I'm still getting used to them. So
I'm still getting used to them as well.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. That's a huge step and for people when they get their braces off. So very cool.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. What are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about asking for help and also the medium status.
Yay! So you crossed how many followers for medium?
100.
That is amazing. You did it in record time. I'm so excited for you. And you have a lot of engagement too, which is fantastic.
I'm just so glad to be on it.
Yeah. And you write, like, how often would you say?
Maybe once a week.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. That's perfect. And I'm kind of at a place too where, like, once a week I'm trying to repurpose podcasts and kind of tie it in together with my blog on my website. If I could get to 2 a week, that's fantastic. But I think once a week is a great pace to build an audience and share a message. So congratulations.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. It's really cool. You do an amazing job. So you really do. And who would have thought you'd be such a good poet?
I love poetry.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that because poetry is not in my wheelhouse. So it's just not something I think of. And then you've been writing these beautiful poems. So they're really, really awesome. And I hope that people connect with you on Medium. If you're not on Medium, if you're not familiar with what the platform is, I will obviously have some links in the show notes so you can easily click on them and check out Sienna's articles and poetry.
For sure.
Yeah. So today you said we're going to talk about asking for help.
Correct.
Do you want to put some context or an example around that? It's such an important topic, and I'm so glad that you want to share and talk about this.
So with the context of asking for help, it's just when you don't feel great, when just reaching out and knowing that it's okay to ask for help. It's never a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. This is a big topic and a topic that so many people struggle with. I know you and I were talking briefly before we hit record, and it's something that Ryan, your uncle, really had to work through as we began our relationship now, 17 years ago. We've been married for 15 years. And, I started to notice that he had anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I only have anxiety when it's a sign from the universe that something's wrong. So I don't have a normal struggle with anxiety, but I noticed that he did. And it took him a really long time to open up and share with me and start to uncover the triggers And when you think about that, gosh, we didn't get together and get married till we were almost 35. All those years he struggled by himself in silence. And that's how a lot of people live their lives. They struggle by themselves in silence instead of sharing, what's going on in their brain that may be anxiety related, and then contribute to their behavior and how they're acting in the work environment or in relationships. And it's a really, really big topic. And I commend you for having the courage to ask for help or share that something doesn't feel right and try to get to the bottom of it.
Thank you so much.
So did you have something recently that you wanted to share? Just kind of an example so people can kind of relate and maybe start to go, oh yeah, that happens to me too.
Yeah, so usually with school, and this is very recent, it's from yesterday, I was just not having a good day. My anxiety was really bad. I was trying to calm myself down. It took a very long time to actually calm it down. But it was so bad that I left school because I just couldn't take it. It was horrible.
Did your mom come get you, or did you just walk out, or did Jake come get you when you say left?
My mom got me.
Came and got you out of school. Wow.
Yeah.
So then what did you do when you came home? Like, what are some of the tools you used to feel better? Because you said you feel a little bit better today, right?
Yeah. I colored. I listened to some music. I was just like, oh, let's just calm down.
Yeah. Yeah. And tried to get out of your left brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coloring, listening to music. I know you do a lot of breath work.
Yes, I do.
Can you share some examples? Because I've found that people overthink breath work, right? And it's not as difficult as, maybe because it says work in it, that people go, so can you just share some examples of like what you would do to kind of breathe yourself out of it?
I do box breathing, which is like inhale 4 seconds, pause 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, and then pause again for 4 seconds. Mm-hmm. I also do just like normal, like focusing on my breathing sometimes. It kind of depends which one works better for me.
Yeah, I've done box breathing before in the past, and I've written about it. I think I podcasted about it a little bit, so I'll put that link in the show notes too from Medium. And that is just a super powerful tool. And it doesn't even take very long, right?
No, it does not.
It's kind of amazing how, if you remember, that's the key to ask for the help, and then remembering to breathe. Like, it's as simple as that, but we often don't do that. We often just keep going in our autopilot and forget that, we can ask for help from another person or even from the universe, from God.
Definitely.
And do you ever say like a little prayer to ask for help to help you through some of your anxiety?
Sometimes I forget though, because it's just also crazy in the moment that I'm like, it kind of just slips my mind.
Mm-hmm. So yesterday you had texted me when I was at the airport about to get on a plane that you were feeling anxious, and you were even to the point of thinking, should we cancel the podcast, right?
Yeah.
That's what people do. And it's not that I wouldn't cancel the podcast or, reschedule, really is what I should say, the podcast. Because of course, this is a podcast. It's not, life or death here. But we go into that, fright and flight state, right? Within our brain. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, we got to cancel. We got to do this. We got to do this. Instead of, we should just kind of take a moment, breathe, try to figure out what the trigger was. And then I know when I was getting on the plane, I was saying prayers for you. I was asking God to help you get through it. And that's something that you can do. We think maybe in context of church, you go to church and you pray for someone. That's very common in church. I know you didn't grow up going to church like I did, Sienna, but it's a very common thing. But I don't even think that people recognize the power in that. And especially if you don't go to church, you may not even be aware of that's just something you can remember to do. Is you can easily say a little prayer. Here, please, angels, God, help Sienna through this. Your uncle and I do it all the time. He'll have a bad day and he'll text me that he hasn't caught anything yet. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to start praying. And honestly, it works. It's so crazy. So that's another tool that you can have in your toolbox when you have the courage, if someone has the courage to ask you for help, you can say a prayer for them. Especially if they're open to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when you were nervous about working in the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
Remember we said a little prayer before you went to work, right?
And it went by really great, actually.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best days I've ever worked. I'm not kidding.
And we won't share what the prayer was about, but we prayed for something. And we're like, hey, it went by really well. And I'm like, yeah. So you can pray for other people to, be positive and happy, and God may surprise you that ends up working out. That was fun too. And it's fun. It's kind of like, I don't want to say a game. What's a better word? But just like you're kind of testing the universe back in a way, like like punch bug, slug bug, like, okay, I'm putting this out there to you.
My God.
See if you're going to show up and help me out. And believe it or not, it works.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really works. So, yeah. So I just think it's important. And you hit the nail right on the head. It's just remembering all the tools you have in your toolbox, and you don't need to overwhelm yourself.
Right.
With tools. But even if you just remember like two things, stop and breathe.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Or stop and pray. Ask for help. Stop and tell somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anything else you want to add to the topic?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah.
Well, I really hope this helps someone out there, because anxiety is a really, really big thing. It's, like I said, like I'm fortunate that my anxiety is only as a tool for understanding like what's a no. So like a clairsentient tool. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people out there that it's just, however you want to put it, like part of how they're wired. They are wired with this in their body. So being able to understand, when is it something that I can control? And then like you and I talked about before too, a couple of weeks ago, is when you can realize that it's a clairsentient tool, right? Mm-hmm. And be like, okay, this is my anxiety to tell me that I shouldn't go down this street. Or I should stay away from this person, or say no to something. But so there's different ways that you can use anxiety, and different ways that people have anxiety, and just the awareness around that. And if you know someone that does have anxiety, encourage them to speak up about it. They're not alone. Yeah. And all of us are here to help. And like you said before, it's not a judgment thing. Just different people have different things that they need a little bit of help on. Right. Yeah. So that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're always welcome. I love having you as my co-host. Yay. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. And I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful that you have the courage and the confidence to share on this podcast. I think it's amazing.
I'm grateful for you and the opportunity to talk about this.
Yes. I'm grateful for the platform and the medium. I didn't make it up. So until next week, if anyone wishes to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram, or feel free to reach out. melinda@melindavanfleet.com.
And you guys can find me on Medium, of course.
Perfect. I will put the links in the show notes. Until next week, Be grateful, be curious, always be learning. And you know what? Have some fun too. Thanks for listening. I love you, Sienna.
I love you too.
Thank you.